Okay, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to Watch Darius TV. I'm back with another review, and this one is of Dexter New Blood. If you like this video, like, comment, subscribe, and share the video. Now, I know I'm completely late on Dexter's New Blood. I actually watched it earlier this year, but when I first heard that Dexter was coming back with another season, I was like, man, that was a surprise. Like Doak say, surprise. And I can't really curse on here, but I was like, dang, surprise, mug. Like, dang, I cannot believe that this was coming back. Last season, I can agree with everybody else. I wasn't really feeling the last season of Dexter, but I gotta say, this season really shocked me. I thought it was a pretty decent season. Let's start with the review. I love the intro with Dexter using his gun to hunt. It's basically contrast from him being in sunny, Miami, Florida, because basically now he's in a snowy cabin. So to go from being, Miami to basically being in more of a cold area, I love that contrast that they had. Deb is now his dark passenger. I was not seeing that. That kind of blew my mind that she would be his dark passenger now because his dad basically disappeared at the end of season 8. So I didn't. So that's pretty interesting that his sister is now well, not dark passenger, but I'm not sure what it. I guess that's she's his dark passenger. From the calendar, the show basically takes place in the same year it came out. I like that. That was a nice touch. Let me see. Also, by the way, this review is going to be kind of like the old way I used to do reviews, where I just watch the whole season and I just binge watch it and then I do a review. This isn't an episode breakdown of each one, so that's the difference between this one and the previous reviews I would usually do for a TV show. Even the filming of the show feels different. I could tell it's the director is different and stuff like that. They have the episode title and showing a preview of what the episode is going to be about. So even the filming is completely different. It's just everything is different. That the editing, all of that, it doesn't feel like the same show from the original series. Dexter's new name ends up being Jim Lindsay, and he's dating a cop. The opposite of when he was dating an actual serial killer, Hannah. So that's interesting contrast. The whole town loves Dexter, kind of like how the Miami Metro did. Instead of him being a bearded lumberjack, he gets a clean shave and works at a small shop. So that's different. They just kind of changed that around from the last season. We thought he was going to be in isolation, but he's now reworked his whole life. I forgot where he stayed at, but became a lumberjack, and then he ended up moving somewhere. I think up New York, someplace. So okay. Um, then there's that scene where Dexter was like awkwardly line dancing, like he did the high school reunion. I thought that was kind of funny. They did that. Both of Dexter's jobs revolve around some type of death or like killing, I guess. He was a blood splatter analyst. Now he works at a gun shop. That has guns and knives and stuff like that. He works at a store. So basically, now this new job he works at still revolves around some type of death. Also, we find out in earlier in the season that he hasn't stabbed anybody in 10 years. So Deborah sort of treats him like he's recovering addict. So he hasn't killed nobody in 10 years. So there's that. Also, it's been 10 years since the end of the other season. So there's that also. There's a hooded kid that ends up spotting Dexter. I kind of already had a feeling that was going to be Harrison. I found it kind of weird that he was able to track him down from Miami all the way up to New York someplace, but okay. Bathroom scene of a guy telling on Matt to Dexter. I think that was a little too convenient. It's setting things up to be too easy for Dexter. It just so happened this guy was telling everything about Matt and about how bad he is, and it just so happened to be too easy to set up for Dexter. Deb stops Dexter from getting close to Harrison. That was kind of shocking. She didn't want him to get too close to, get him into becoming like Dexter. So, yeah, Deb is a much more aggressive Dark Passenger compared to his dad. Dexter's new girlfriend kind of also looks like Deb. I don't know if anybody noticed that, but that the way that the actress looked, she kind of reminded me of Deb. So I thought that was interesting. Yeah. So, and then Dexter's first kill ends up basically being Matt, of course. So and he even brings back the glass slides. The whole he breaks a window and creates his own little makeshift glass slide. So that was interesting. He's going back to his old self after when he killed Matt. Also, a side note, Dexter getting mad over the deer shooting scene definitely reminded me a lot of Tony. Spoiler alert, if anybody's ever seen The Sopranos, when Tony ends up killing Ralph over the horse, I wonder, was that what they were going for? It kind of reminded me of that a little bit. Um, Dexter even says tonight's the night. Any real Dexter fans, you know that that's what he says in the first episode of Dexter. And he ends up saying that, I believe, in the first episode of this new series. He says tonight's the night. So that's a good callback. Harrison says cancer took out Hannah. She had, I think, pancreatic cancer. So that's why we didn't see her. But we all know that, Hannah's in The Handmaid's Tale now, somewhere in Gilead. So, but that's how that character ends up ending, through cancer. That was a shock. The new intro of Dexter's are, like I said, they're just quick cuts of things that will be happening in the episode. Instead of the slow intro of him and his, killer morning routine that he originally had from the previous season, this is quick cuts and all this other stuff like that. So shows the contrast between this series and the previous Dexter series. Um, Debs feels more like a tormentor for Dexter than the sort of a spiritual guide his father was. So I guess what I kind of got the feeling, like I said, another contrast between the previous series and this series. Dexter's dark tendencies letter he left. Oh yeah, so Dexter left a note about his dark tendencies. I think he left not for. I think it was. If I don't really remember, I haven't seen season 8 of Dexter in a long time. But he left a note. I think it was for Hannah or maybe it's for Harrison. I don't remember, but he left that, and I believe that his son Harrison read it. Ironically, Dexter kills a man's son, and his own son comes back in town. I thought that was pretty interesting too. That he ends up killing Cal's. I think that's his name. The main villain this season. He ends up killing that man's son, and then ironically enough, around that same time, Harrison comes back in town, which is his son. I thought that was pretty interesting how that happened. Clearly, that was purposely because we see Cal has a really trying to have a relationship with Harrison, as we can see later on in the series. The new Bloodspotter guy, Damian Church, showing up, and that Dexter has is also showing that Dexter's gotten rusty when the new Bloodspotter guy comes looking for Matt. Now they have heat-seeking cameras and search dogs and making things a lot more harder for this new world Dexter is in. So that was interesting because usually he didn't really have to deal with all this stuff in Miami. So it's showing that times have changed now for Dexter. The scene of Deb trying to help Dexter find out what to do with Matt's body. The series has definitely gotten more comedic compared to sort of the. It's still sort of like a dark, dark comedy, I guess you can say. They still have that type of dark humor, but yeah, they definitely the scene where Deb was trying to help Dexter find out what to do with Matt's body. You definitely tell that they were throwing in some comedy in there, so still got that. Harrison befriends the nerd at school who ends up becoming who doesn't like this bully. And then they say there's a quote that they say. I think that Harrison said this. I'm just reading notes from when I binge watched the show. At the top of the food chain. I don't remember. That was part of my notes. I think that's what Harrison said, and that definitely kind of reminded me. I guess that's what they were going for to show the similarities between Harrison and Dexter. I think that's what Harrison said, or maybe that was what the nerd said. I don't remember, but they said something about being at the top of the food chain. This season also makes a reference to showing signs that most likely Harrison might have a dark passenger, and we sort of see that in the whole wrestling scene. And yeah, so Ethan was like I said, Ethan was definitely giving some serious Columbine vibes from him. I mean, when he ends up sending the drawings to Harrison, and Harrison strangely likes seeing the violent art. You get some weird. I don't know if I could say this on YouTube. YouTube's become real scary when it comes down to demonetizing stuff, but I was getting some real like Columbine type vibes from that dude. Like he was, that was pretty wild. And Matt's ashes falling on Kurt. Kurt is happy for his son's return. Ironically, I don't know why. Kurt was saying that his son came back, and after Dexter killed him, and then his ashes was falling on Kurt while he was saying that he was back. That was really dark and ironic. That his son's ashes was in the air, and that's how Dexter in this new world is getting rid of bodies instead of dumping them in the Bay Harbor, harbor someplace. He's putting them in some type of fire pit. So, like I said, a total contrast to what he was doing. He was getting rid of them at a lake. Now he's getting rid of them in fire in this series. So I love the contrast between the old Dexter and the new Dexter series. I like that. Molly Parker podcast, bringing the Trinity Killer back. That was interesting. I love the references to past villains. Harrison stops the possible school shooter Ethan. He stops him, showing that he might be a quote unquote hero. But we're going to unpack that. We see there's a total switch where it was actually Harrison, I believe, the one that was the bad guy. I haven't seen it in a while, but Harrison was the one that tried to hurt Ethan, and I love that plot twist. I did not see that coming at all. Um, there was something shady about Harrison's stab wound, and Ethan's parents are definitely mad at Harrison, despite the fact that his son was supposedly the bad guy, looked at as being bad, but his family still had nothing to do with Harrison, so they just after that whole situation happened at the gym, yeah, that was crazy. Aubrey is totally annoying, by the way. The Earth Girl who talks back to her mom, I think that's what that was. Yeah, that character was kind of irritating. Um, Deb and Dexter going over the stab scene. I like the teamwork that they had. I like that whole interaction that they have. Basically, Deb's and as a ghost talking to Dexter. I like that scene that they had. Um, Dexter finds out Harrison. Like I said, Dexter finds out Harrison attacked Ethan. Like I said, that was a crazy twist. I love that. I did not see that coming at all. Molly Parker sort of represents today's podcast culture. She just basically making a podcast about anything. She don't care about the lives that were harmed. She really overextends herself. So yeah. And then we find out Harrison has a dark passenger, and Dexter finds out he may like the Trinity Killer. He finds so he finds out that his son might possibly like the Trinity Killer after finding his blade. So to show you the legacy of the Trinity Killer. Trinity Killer was the most popular villain in the Dexter series, so we're showing his legacy almost through Harrison in a way. Then there's a scene where drunk Harrison, he tells Aubrey, Jim isn't real, almost exposing Dexter. That was not a good idea. And I like that scene also where dogs are barking when Dexter says, it's a quote where he says, dogs are barking at me. I still got it. I like that scene because dogs are barking at Dexter because Dexter he's a serial killer, so they can peep something's up with him. Then there's another quote that Dexter says when Logan, the police officer, is interrogating scene, and he says that, "Damn Logan, even I'm intimidated." I like that quote too that Dexter had in that scene. Angel Batiste makes his return. He makes also a reference to the Trinity Killer and Deborah too in his return. So we also thought there was going. Most fans thought there was going to be some type of interaction between Angel and Dexter, but they of course never meet up. So there's that. Dexter never really ends up being completely outed. Kurt has a thing for letting young women stay at his house, and then he lets them run away so he can shoot them in the back. Okay, that was pretty odd. Kurt, I never really thought Kurt was that much of an interesting villain. I thought he was pretty generic. I always thought that most of the villains in Dexter series were a lot bit more cooler. I would say always most of the most slept on Dexter villain I would say is the Ice Truck Killer is the first villain. Also, spoiler alert, he's Dexter's brother. I thought he was more interesting as a villain. I think he's the most slept on. People get so caught up in the Trinity Killer. And this might sound shocking to say this. I love the Doomsday Killer. I thought he was interesting too. I don't know. People slept on him because they thought the whole Fight Club story twist, where the dude was inside his head. People don't like that, but I thought they were the most slept on villains. But I can understand people not liking the season 5 villain with the dumpster, the guy that put the whoever the season 5 villain, I forgot his name. That was probably one of the weakest villains. I didn't really care about the season 3 villains too much, and I thought that one girl that he dated in season 2, I thought she was kind of boring. But those are the most slept on villains. I always thought Kurt was kind of, you know. Angels also, like I said, he comes back. just to put Dexter's past on blast. You know, basically just to give some insight on his past to I believe he was telling Dexter's girlfriend, new girlfriend, about him or something like that. So Dexter was going to kill the drug dealer, but had to dash. That's very rare. There was a drug dealer that gave his son some pills, and there's somebody like that almost, I forgot. He gave somebody some drugs and almost overdosed. I think it was his son Harrison. I don't remember. And Dexter was close to killing him, but he ends up having a dash, and he just attacks the guy. It's very rare. Usually Dexter can get his victims, but this time he had to, dash. And usually he gets his victims at night, so him doing that in daytime, that was, he definitely has gotten a bit sloppy this time around. So Debs finds out Dexter is a killer and is like Angela find. Oh yeah, so Debs finding out Dexter is a killer is kind of like Angela finding out who Dexter is. Wait, did I'm looking at old notes. I don't know. Did I mean Debs? Was I talking about Dexter's new girlfriend? I'm not sure. I could be wrong. I don't know what I just. I'm looking at old notes and I'm not really remembering what I wrote down. I'm thinking I probably meant Dexter's new girlfriend. I could be, but I think that his new girlfriend found out that he was a killer, kind of like how Angela found out who Dexter is. I think that's what I was saying in these notes, but I don't remember. This is what happens when you just binge watch a whole show and then try to write notes a few months later. So forgive me if I'm clearly sloppy here, but then there's another quote that Dexter says: "The good old days." Dexter is listening to Molly's podcast and seeing pictures of Dokes and Trinity and stuff like that. Feels very nostalgic. So I love the sort of throwbacks that they have. Molly Wound really got go. Okay, now I thought a scene where Molly really went to Kurt's house alone. That was really dumb of her. I don't know what she was thinking, going to this strange man's house by herself. Like Dexter, and then Dexter has a scene where he says that's serial killer 101. Like I said, it was super dumb on her part, to go somewhere. She definitely felt nervous, but why was she doing that? To further get some clout on her podcast. Like that Migos song. They'll do anything for clout, basically. So yeah, that was dumb on her part, even though basically she ends up getting killed anyway, but really stupid on her part. Kurt trying to put the fake eyepiece on the dead girl's face that he shot her in the face, like, he punches it. Like, this dude is crazy, RIP to her, like, this dude was out of his mind. Side note, that girl had, nice boobs, by the way, but anyway, he's crazy. Like, the girl finally decides to do things different from the code that he usually had, with trying to make the girls run. When she decides to run towards him, I don't know why, and she ends up getting shot in the face. Like, wow, it was, wow, okay. And then during the wrestling match, Kurt looks like he is basically overstepping his boundaries. He know his own son is dead, so he's trying to make Harrison his new son. Um, he was trying to put Harrison's dad since his son. Yeah, so like I said, he's trying to basically get Harrison to be his own surrogate son because his own son is dead. So he's overstepping his boundaries, creating that tension between him and Dexter. Um, yeah, then like I said, Dexter's then he has a scene where Dexter's going over Iris's corpse, and he knows that it just had to be Kurt, basically. So he's figuring that out. There's that scene. Then there's another quote: "Leave it to the police to handle what could possibly go wrong." And then there's that scene where Deb says that to Dexter. Leave it to the police. What could possibly go wrong? It's a nice callback to why they were talking about Debs as a ghost talking to Dexter, and she lifts up her shirt showing where she got shot at. That was a nice callback to the previous season. I like that. That was a very dark but interesting callback that they had. Molly Parker's character, like I said, she was annoying, but Jamie Chung is she's pretty fine, so it evens itself out. I'd be willing to take her character. I just Jamie Chung is she cute, so her character might be annoying on this show, but she was cool to look at. So it is what it is. I can handle that. Kurt finding out Dexter killed his son in prison scene. Kurt has power and wants revenge, so Kurt finds out that Dexter